is. Capitalism is evolving. In a way, it's very interesting because we sort of go back to Karl Marx, ironically, because he never wrote about the internet, right? He had no internet in his time. But his focus was on the social relationships that grow up around production and the way that those relationships can rupture the forces that govern production, the economic forces, the need for capital to grow, the need for capital to move around, the mechanisms that produces. And when these things come into conflict, then of course he predicts revolution. And I think that's probably different now, is that you don't predict revolution, what you do is you predict irrelevance. Is that, in the same way that, Blockbuster Video and record stores became irrelevant, we're going to see an increasing number of things that we take for granted as sort of staples of our daily lives becoming irrelevant. And for millions of people in the workforce globally, we discuss our lives in concepts that don't really make sense anymore. There was a time when people used to say, "Oh, computers will never catch on." There was a time when people said telephones would never catch on. Now, if you actually look there are more mobile phones out there than people. And when you look at someone in your sort of average working, job, he has probably got a mobile phone. They might have a personal mobile phone and a work mobile phone. They've probably got an iPad or a tablet, if they're lucky. If not, they've definitely got a computer at home. Definitely got a computer at work. Work might even give them a laptop. Right? They only need one more in order to have more devices than an octopus could comfortably use. Yeah. All right. So in many respects, the organs of society are in a fundamental state of denial, and the reason they're in denial is because of the ubiquity of computing. It's not acknowledged just how big a thing this really is. To put that in perspective, my first computer was an Apple Mac Performer 420, this thing was amazing. It had 4 megabytes of RAM and a 20 megabyte hard drive. And
they were the days.
Yeah, no, it made me the MCP from Tron. I could, I could take over the world with this thing. It was amazing. I now have a phone in my pocket. It comes free with my telephone deal. I have a free phone that has enough power that if I'd wanted that computing power back then when I bought that computer, I'd have needed about 4,000 of those, which means I would have had to have had a number of large data centers full of computers. And that's just for my phone. That doesn't take into account my 2 iPads, my laptop, my other stuff at home. Now, when you start mapping that out across the computing power around the world, mobile phones, everything else, if we wanted that same level of power 20 years ago, then we would have had to have covered probably the entire planet with data centers, which means it would have been an extinction level event. There would be no room for people to live. There would be no room to grow food. The power output, the heat output would have heated the atmosphere beyond livable circumstances. It would have wiped out mankind. So whatever it is we're doing now, we're doing it with something that 20 years ago would have annihilated all life on the planet. It's an extinction level scenario if we have it in the past, the stuff that we have right now. Now, it's crazy to think that we can have all of those things now in our lives, and yet the structures, the social and economic structures that governed it 20 years ago, when that would have meant certain death for all living things, that absolutely means that we're not going to continue the way we have been in the future with that level of technology.